If you're new here, welcome. Tonight's story is about a man the world called a monster and the woman who dared to see his soul. So find somewhere quiet and listen closely. They said he was born from the ashes of a burned church. Said the wind carried his name like a curse. Children were told not to wander too close to the ridge, because if the devil of Blackthorn saw you, you'd vanish before sunrise. But legends never told the truth. They never said how pain can turn a man into the very thing he fears becoming. He rode into the valley the night the sky bled crimson. His horse was dark as shadow, his face half hidden beneath a hood. The villagers locked their doors, whispered prayers, but by dawn, he had taken what he came for. Not gold, not land. A girl. She didn't scream when he lifted her onto his horse. She didn't beg when the wind tore through her hair and the forest swallowed the sound of pursuit. She just looked ahead, eyes steady, as though she already knew her fate. The mountain path twisted through pines and mist. Somewhere behind them, thunder rolled. "Why me?" she asked, finally, voice trembling against the rush of wind. He didn't answer. For hours, he said nothing. When the horse finally slowed, they stood before a jagged mouth of stone, a hidden cave high above the valley. Inside, the air was cool, smelling of rain and smoke. He set her down, his movements careful, too deliberate for the beast people said he was. "You'll stay here," he said, voice rough from disuse. She studied him, the scars beneath his jaw, the haunted stillness in his eyes. He was nothing like she imagined. There was no madness there, only exhaustion. "I've heard stories about you," she said quietly. He met her gaze. "Then you should know better to talk." But there was no bite in his words, only warning. She sat near the fire, pulling her cloak close. "They say you've killed whole towns." He looked at her for a long time, then turned away. "They say a lot of things." Outside, rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavy. Lightning flashed, painting his face in silver light. She caught a glimpse of something raw in his expression. Grief, maybe, or guilt. "What happened to you?" she asked. He froze, then gave a low laugh. "You wouldn't believe it." He turned, stepping closer until the firelight touched the edge of his jaw. "They took everything from me," he said simply. "My land, my family, my name. I gave them what they left me with, a ghost." Her breath caught. For the first time she saw the man beneath the legend, a heart stitched together by pain. That night, while he kept watch at the cave's mouth, she couldn't sleep. His silhouette stood against the storm, unmoving. Every once in a while, she thought she saw his hand tighten around a locket that hung at his neck. By morning, the rain had stopped. Mist clung to the ridge like a secret. She stepped outside, barefoot on wet stone, and found him saddling his horse. "Where are you going?" He didn't look up. "Down the ridge. Supplies." "And if I try to run?" His gaze lifted, not cruel, just weary. "You won't." "Why?" He hesitated. "Because you're not afraid of me. Not really." She didn't answer, but something in her chest shifted. When he was gone, she wandered the cave. There were books stacked neatly by the fire, Not stolen treasures, but worn pages marked by use. Sketches on parchment, faces, towns, rivers. One drawing in particular caught her eye. A woman holding a child. When he returned at dusk, she was still sitting there, holding the sketch gently in her hands. "Who were they?" she asked. He froze. "No one." "Your family?" He said nothing, just took the paper and tucked it away. "You ask too many questions." "Someone has to," she murmured. He almost smiled, almost. That night she dreamed of fire and screams. She woke to his voice, low and steady. "It's just the wind," he whispered. But there was something in his tone, something that made her heart ache. Days blurred into nights. He never hurt her, never shouted. He spoke little, but when he did, it was with strange gentleness. Sometimes she'd catch him watching her, as though trying to remember what kindness looked like. And then one evening, as she stood near the edge of the ridge, she saw torches flickering below, riders approaching fast. He was already at her side, eyes sharp. "They've found us." "Who?" "Men, who want what's left of my soul." He took her hand without thinking. "Get inside," he said. But she didn't move. "Let me help." "You can't." "I can try." His grip tightened. For a heartbeat, their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Fear, defiance, and something else neither dared name. Then, the first shot rang out across the ridge.
If you're new here, welcome to Whispers with Ivy. Settle in, listen closely, and tell me, when the story fades, what part of your heart will still be trembling? The wind over Blackthorn Ridge howled like something alive, scraping against the cliffs and cutting through the silence that haunted the valley. They said no soul dared to climb past the old bridge after nightfall, not unless they wished to meet the devil himself. But that night, the girl's wrists were bound, her breath shallow as she was led across the ridge. The horse beneath her trembled at the darkness ahead. Behind her, the outlaw rode, silent, broad-shouldered, the moon catching the edge of his jaw like a blade. She'd heard the stories, that he'd burned villages, that he'd killed for gold, that no one ever looked him in the eye and lived to tell it. And yet, beneath the thunder of hooves, she wondered why he hadn't hurt her yet. When they reached the mouth of a cave carved into the cliffside, he dismounted and spoke for the first time, a low voice that seemed to roll from somewhere deep within the earth. "Get down," he said. She hesitated. His hand brushed the rope at her wrists. Not rough, not cruel, just careful. The cave opened into a dim hall of flickering firelight. He walked ahead without looking back, and she followed, every step echoing like a heartbeat. There were weapons along the walls, maps, gold coins half buried in dust. But what caught her eyes were the books, stacks of them, torn and faded, near a wooden table. An outlaw who read? He turned then, and she saw his face for the first time. Not the monster the village spoke of, not the devil with eyes like ash, but a man with exhaustion carved into his skin, as though sleep had long forgotten him. "Sit," he said quietly. She did. Her heart pounded, but her voice found her. "Why me?" His eyes flickered toward her. "Wrong place, wrong time," he muttered. She swallowed.
You could have left me." "I could have," he said, then paused, gaze lowering to the fire. "But I didn't." For a moment neither spoke. Only the wind whispered through the mouth of the cave, carrying the smell of rain. She studied him, the way his hands fidgeted, the way his jaw tensed like he was holding back words he didn't want to admit. He wasn't the villain they described. He was something else entirely. Dangerous, yes, but not cruel. Later, when he gave her food, bread, still warm, she took it with trembling fingers. "Do you always feed your prisoners?" she asked softly. That ghost of a smile flickered across his lips. "Only the ones who ask questions." She almost smiled too, though fear still lingered. "Then maybe I should stop asking." "Maybe you shouldn't," he said, eyes glinting in the light. That night, as she lay awake near the embers, she heard him outside, pacing, muttering low under his breath. The sound wasn't violent. It was pained, like someone trying to fight a memory that wouldn't die. When she finally spoke into the darkness, her voice was barely a whisper. "What did they do to you?" He stopped. For a long time, there was only the sound of the wind. Then his answer came, soft and hollow. "They took everything that was mine. So I took everything they had left." The confession settled between them like dust, heavy and quiet. She wanted to ask more, but his footsteps faded into the night, leaving her staring at the cave ceiling, her heart torn between fear and something she couldn't name. By morning, the storm had passed. The sun spilled faint gold over the ridge. He was already awake, sharpening his blade, the fire gone to ash. "You'll take me back?" she asked. He didn't answer. "Please," she said, her voice trembling. "My family." "Your family," he interrupted, not looking at her. "Would they still want you, after you've spent the night with the devil?" Her breath caught. "You're not—" she began, but he turned sharply, eyes blazing, the mask finally cracking. "Don't say what you don't know." Then, softer. "Not yet." The silence that followed was heavy enough to break her heart. He looked away first, the anger in his face fading to something fragile. "I'm not your enemy," he said quietly, "but I can't let you go. Not until I know I can trust you." She nodded slowly, though fear and curiosity tangled inside her. Days passed like shadows. Sometimes he spoke to her, sometimes he didn't. But every time their eyes met, something unspoken flickered, a kind of recognition, as though two broken souls had accidentally found each other in the dark. And one night, when she woke to the sound of footsteps outside the cave, she realized they weren't his. Voices echoed faintly through the forest, men searching, calling his name, the name that carried more fear than any curse. He moved to the entrance, his hand on his weapon, face unreadable. "They found me," he said, more to himself than to her. "Who are they?" "Men who think they can bury ghosts," he murmured. Then he turned to her, his eyes catching the firelight. "Stay here. No matter what you hear, don't come out." Before she could speak, he was gone. swallowed by the night. She waited, heart pounding. The air was thick with smoke and distant shouting. And then, silence. Moments stretched into forever. Then a shadow appeared in the mouth of the cave. He stumbled in, blood on his arm, fire in his eyes. Her breath caught as he fell to one knee before her, his hand reaching out as though to make sure she was still there. "Why didn't you run?" he whispered. Her voice shook. "Because I didn't want you to die alone." He looked up at her then, truly looked, and something in his face broke open. "Then you're either the bravest soul I've met," he said softly, "or the most foolish." "Maybe both," she murmured. He almost smiled, even through the pain. But before she could reach for him, a sound from outside the cave made them both freeze, the click of a gun being cocked. The story of the Devil of Blackthorn Ridge was not over. Not yet. If you're still here, listening in the dark, tell me, do you believe a heart can be both the cage and the key? He met her gaze. "There's nothing left for me but ghosts." "Then maybe it's time you stop talking to them," she said gently, "and start living." He studied her for a long moment, then looked away, almost shy. "You don't owe me forgiveness." "I'm not offering forgiveness. I'm offering tomorrow." Something fragile passed between them, like a secret carried on the wind. That night, they stood together on the ridge. The same wind that once screamed, now only whispered. Below them, the valley slept, alive again. He reached for her hand, hesitant, rough from years of violence. She didn't pull away. "I used to think there was no saving a man like me," he said quietly. "And now?" He looked at her, eyes soft, voice trembling with something that sounded almost like hope. "Now, I think maybe I was just waiting for someone to see me." The stars stretched wide and endless above them, and for the first time, he didn't look like the devil at all. He looked like a man who'd finally found peace. If you've listened this far, tell me, do you believe redemption ever truly ends? Or does it begin the moment someone dares to look past the darkness?